Hello, and welcome to today's Instagram Live Q&A and catch-up session. I'm excited to be here with you all. We've got a bunch of questions that folks submitted that I am excited to get on into. Howdy to those of you who are catching the replay, and welcome to those of you who are joining me live. So I'm going to get right into it and see which question I feel called to answer first. And those of you who are joining live, you're welcome. If anything that I'm sharing sparks other questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and we'll see how many we can get to today. So the first question that I'm going to answer, this is a good one. So someone asked, how do I deal with that voice that tells me that what's alive in me doesn't matter? So the context on this, I feel, is someone who's saying, I feel like there's certain things that I'm called to, there's certain things that I am inspired to do, that I'm interested in, my passions, my interests, my mission, all of that. But then there's this voice who says it doesn't matter. And when I read this, I felt a real fire of conviction of wanting to look into this person's eyes and really speak power and possibility into them, and to say that this voice, which we'll talk about where it comes from, this voice is not you. You are the observer of that voice, and this voice has been controlling you your entire life. And are you going to let it keep controlling you? And there's ways to clear this fear-based programming, but it all starts with the conviction and the commitment to, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm going to do the things that I love. And there can be a kind of gentleness and a real tenderness and care that we want to bring to a certain level of the healing process. And then there's also a time for a kind of fire and saying, am I really going to let this story control me, right? Or am I going to connect with the part of me that knows that what makes me come alive is really important and is literally why I'm here? It's in the phrase, it makes me come alive. It literally is why I am alive. It's what is allowing my life force to flow and to grow. And so I'm going to do it because this is my life. And so this question of how do I deal with the voice that tells me that what's alive in me doesn't matter, starts simply with really truly understanding that if you can hear that voice, this is something that Michael Singer talks a lot about in The Untethered Soul, as well as many other enlightened sages speak about the same thing, right? Observing the monkey mind, observing that if you can see the story, then you're not the one telling the story. And starting to loosen that attachment to feeling like that story is true, and just starting to distance yourself in a certain way and observe it. And then as we observe it, we may feel already like it doesn't have the same level of control. But if it's still, if it's triggering, right, which means that it's kind of hitting something in the emotional body, and it's bringing up emotion, it's making you feel scared, it's making you feel ashamed, then that means that it has a root in past conditioning, which some people would call trauma, right? Which basically means that there are experiences that you have had that convinced you of that there's something wrong with you, that there's something to be scared of inherently in your existence. And thank you for these beautiful comments that are coming in. I'm going to read them in a minute once I finish this answer. It's so grateful to be here with you all. Truly, it is such a joy to be of service in this way and to have this level of a conversation. So, if you're feeling very influenced by this story that what makes you come alive, what you're passionate about, doesn't matter or isn't worthwhile, another way you can catch that as not your voice, not your inherent truth, is whose voice is this? Just asking, you ask for the truth to be exposed, and it comes up. Oh, it's my dad's voice. Oh, it's my grandfather's voice. Oh, it's my first grade teacher's voice, right? And then it brings you back. You can then ask, when was the first time I felt this way? Or when was the first time I started to believe this? And then boom, there you are, 6 years old, in school, being laughed at for something that you love. you're watching your parents fight, or you're having someone tell you artists don't make enough money, so don't quit your day job, kid, or must be nice for those people to do fun things. We don't get to do fun things, right? It brings you back to that moment where you started to believe this story. And why do these stories continue, right? Why do we just keep telling these stories over and over again? It's to keep ourselves safe. This is something that they talk about in psychocybernetics and pretty much, any text that's going to teach you how to do subconscious reprogramming, which is a huge part of what I do with all my one-on-one clients and also within my programs, within my membership. Anyone I'm working with, we're going back to the inner roots. And they talk about, why we perpetuate these same stories. And it's to keep ourselves safe, right? When we're young, we learn these are the parameters, right? We basically confirm the same self-concept over and over and over again. So if a part of you feels like it's not safe to do what makes you come alive, then it's going to try really hard to keep you convinced that what is alive in you doesn't matter, that your passions, your interests, all little quirky things that you love, that they don't actually matter, right? And that they're not actually important, right? And it's doing that out of a sense of self-preservation. So what we get to do is we go back to the root. This is a very classical trauma clearing, subconscious reprogramming technique where you go back to the root and you show yourself a new story. You start to repattern it so that you're no longer at the effect of that original fear, that original conditioning, and you're starting to loosen your grip on the story that you have to confirm again and again and again that it's not safe to have passions, right? And why wouldn't it have been safe, right? Maybe in the past there was very, intense circumstances, capital T trauma that showed you that, or maybe it was, simply you seeing that you loving what you love lost you the approval of your parents, of your guardians, of your friends, right? And then your brain's like, well, this is not safe. I'm going to get kicked out of the clan if I keep doing this, right? I'm not going to survive. So better really ingrain that it's not okay to let this life force in me, this passion, this interest to carry me forward. I have to suppress it. I have to make myself scared of it, right? So you can feel even in the explanation that I've given you, right, we've already started to call the bluff on the fear in a lot of different ways. And if you're interested, the person who asked this question, or any of you, if you're interested in learning more about this, you can send me a DM and I'll send you different resources that I have in terms of options for going deeper in this work. Just looking at my notes here to see if there's anything else I want to say. And once we get to that point, we get to the root and we say, am I going to let this control my life forever? Or am I going to live a new story day by day? Am I going to, they say feel the fear and do it anyway. Am I going to feel scared of following my passions, but do it anyway? Right? And sometimes we can't source a big enough why in the present moment. Or like, we don't love ourselves enough. We don't care about ourselves enough. But then if you think about your inner child, who's like in a corner, not able to express themselves, being told that they're not going to survive being authentic, then that might start to stoke your fire. You might start to say, yo, I got to do it for this kid. I got to do it for this younger version of me who deserves to be able to express. And, if you need that reminder, and for those of you just joining, we're answering the question, how do I deal with the voice in me that tells me that what's alive in me, that my passions, my interests, that they don't matter? This is what matters the most. This is literally what you're here to do on earth. And we can get into nuanced conversations of which self is desiring and which self is, driving the ship, and the nuances of your gifts and the intersection of your gifts and your skills and what the world needs and how to monetize that and share it and all of that, which we get into in God is My Boss, my program on spiritual business, and get into it in my membership as well. But within all that nuance is just the simplicity of what makes you come alive is why you're here. And the world is going to be a better place if you do that. And honestly, all the blessings, all the things that you love, all the things that you're calling in, love, abundance, health, vitality, friends, community, all of that, it's on the other side of you doing what lights you up, right? It's a very practical, important thing to be focused on, right? If you think about, all your blessings, all the blessings that have your name on it, they're they're coming to you, to the real you, not to the fake you, not to the you who's trying to be good and therefore is not, in the flow of life, in the stream of life. So you deserve it. If you need a permission slip, here you go. Please go do something today that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel like life is worth living, that makes you feel lit up in your heart and is something that you love. So I'm going to see what comments we have coming through. We've got a bunch of questions that were already submitted. Those of you who are live, you're welcome to submit questions. Oh, wow. Thank you for this beautiful comment, Apollo. I'm grateful to have had an impact on your life, and truly it's such a joy to be able to be of service in this way, and congrats on your son being born. It's amazing. So, question that was just submitted: how do I go from ego / making it all about me to simply being of service and showing up as a channel? It's a great question. And you kind of have your answer here. It's, what does it look like for you to be of service and show up as a channel? Do more of that. And a prayer that I like to say all the time is, I just asked, let me get out of the way. I said it before I got on this live. I said it before I just finished a prayer call in Mission Space. We do that every month, and this was a really good prayer call. It's always good, but this one was really, we had a lot of different bases that were covered, and it was just really powerful, very powerful community, and very powerful what God is weaving through us. Before I did that, right? God, let me get out of the way. Let me understand that I am a channel. And so how do you, as you're asking here, go from ego / making it all about me and into pure service? You make that a habit. You make that a habit. Sometimes I think we expect certain spiritual and energetic things to just be one and done, but there's a certain level of energetic hygiene, right? Just like you're eating most days and you're drinking water and you're taking a shower and all of that, you're tending to your energetic body, you're tending to your spiritual orientation. So remind yourself, literally, say your morning prayers, do your morning alignment, and every time you're sort of crossing the threshold into a new moment, say, let me get out of the way and be a channel, right? God, what would you have me say? Speak through me. And sometimes you're going to have very powerful moments, when I channel prayers on the prayer call and things like that, I'll hit a certain groove where it's really obvious that it's not me speaking, right? That is this greater force moving through me. In other moments, you may feel like, I just showed up and I think I mostly just talked, from my mind, from my heart. But there's that sense of divine protection. There's that sense of divine, weaving with you, and a sincere intention will come to fruition. So set that intention and be prepared for whatever's in the way to start to come up. I think there's also, an interesting piece to what you're asking here about not making it all about you. And I would be interested in what you're defining as making it about you, right? Is it looking at the numbers and saying, okay, this many people liked my Instagram post and that means something about me, versus being able just to see it with neutrality of, I'm just doing my job, right? I'm just literally clocking in, doing my job. I'm sharing the message I meant to share. There you go. And not taking it so personally. And in order to not take it so personally, it is a practice, right? It is an ongoing reminder of what's my job and what's God's job. And, releasing an attachment to outcome. And also, as we talked about with the first question, those triggers are a mirror. So what comes up for you when you're making it all about you? Is it, I'm so great? Is it, I'm the worst? What are the stories? What's the quality of the self-consciousness? And then that's going to show you where your inner work is. That's going to be the stuff that you're doing when you're not front facing, when you're not directly serving people, but you're in your own process, you're in your own work, and you're taking care of yourself, right? That can literally look, I was just working with someone the other day where we were talking about What are you subconsciously trying to get from your followers, the people that are following you online, that you need to give to yourself, right? If you're feeling like you need a certain level of validation or confirmation that your work is worthwhile, that you're doing something that's valuable, you need to give that to yourself. If you are looking to kind of clear the pipes and express things that you haven't said before, can you journal about that or speak that to yourself or a trusted loved one before you're bringing it to the public, right? So what are you sort of needing, which is another way of saying, like, where's your cup empty and how do you fill that cup for yourself so that you come with an open heart, you come with an overflowing cup that you're giving to the world. And the more you kind of tend to your own inner garden in that way, you fill your own cup in that way, then that sense of, oh, like I really wasn't thinking about myself very much and I was just doing my thing, then that's going to become more natural. And in my experience, in my own work, and then working with a lot of people who are public figures, a lot of people who are sharing a certain message or bringing their gifts out into the world, it also comes in waves where you might hit a level where you're like, yo, it's the God show. I'm just the microphone, and I'm hate comments, love comments, right? That Georgia O'Keeffe quote where she says, I've settled it for myself and now flattery and criticism go down the same drain. I'm chilling. You know, you may feel that way, and then something new comes up and you get triggered and you feel more emotional about it and you feel more affected, right? And that's going to show you where there's more healing, right? Where there's more tending to yourself, and just really knowing that this is a co-creation between you and God. This is something I have to remind myself all the time. We were just talking about it on the prayer call. You know, I see a lot of people, including myself sometimes, you know, basically get an assignment from God, and then through the programming of the school system in different ways, it's like, okay, I got my assignment for my teacher. Now I'm going to run away and like do my assignment. Then when it's done, I'm going to bring it back for it to be graded. And that's not how it works, right? If you're given the assignment, if it's divinely inspired, then you need divine support to make it happen. You can't do it on your strength alone. Of course, in Miracle says fear is a sure sign you are trusting in your strength alone. So understanding that you have to continue to invite God in moment by moment by moment and lean in, right? If you're saying, okay, I want to be here to co-create with the divine, to be of service at a higher level, it's going to initiate you into higher and higher levels of faith. Like you can't have a flimsy faith if you're trying to do big work in the world. And if it is flimsy, if it is lacking in different places, which all of us are rehabilitating our courage and our connection with God and our felt sense of that connection, our emotional relationship with God, our energetic capacity. We're all cultivating our intuitive capacity to actually understand and read the energy and understand which way to go. We're all rehabilitating that. So, you know, we're all in the dojo together, and understand that part of that testing that you may feel is part of the process, right? It's part of how you're being initiated and developed into the leader that you're here to be, because we all have inherent capacity, and we're all in this moment, just like someone who like has a surge of adrenaline and can lift a car off of someone. Like we all are fully capable of being very powerful conduits for the divine, and being like really powerful expressions of love and possibility, and fulfilling the highest expression of our gifts in this moment. And we're in the dimension of space and time, and a lot of us are still being developed. And so when you say, yes, I answer the call, I'm ready to go, put me in, right? I'm ready to serve, ready to give my gifts, right? You actually may have like a ton of clarity about your gifts, but then you may be going on a multiple year journey of learning, of growing, right? That's certainly been my experience. I can see this very cohesive thread through what I've been doing for the last 7 years, especially. Before that, I was still doing leadership work, coaching and teaching, facilitating, all kinds of stuff. But about 7 years ago was when I really fully came out spiritually and started to speak in this more integrated way, energetically and spiritually, started to come forward and speak about my relationship with God and really speak through a lens of higher consciousness, not just the 3D chess pieces and the sort of personality characters that we're all walking around as. I can see a very cohesive thread there. And I can also, the amount of death and rebirth and hard training sessions to continue to, land in a deeper and deeper level of clarity within myself and a capacity to continue to speak the message, to teach at a higher level, to teach more people in a more effective way. It's definitely ongoing training. Thank you for these questions and comments here. Sam says, I'm in approximately my 5th death rebirth cycle. I thought you said 50th. Yeah, I'm probably on my 77th, something like that. Right? There's many cycles, right? You can track these really big cycles, and then there's the kind of daily, give us this day our daily bread, daily death and rebirth. It's a lot, and I honor it. I honor all of you for being on that path. And if you are in the death part of the cycle, just know that the rebirth is coming, and know that you're being purified of the things that are no longer serving you, and that are gonna, on the other side, you're gonna feel even more connected with yourself, and you're gonna receive those good blessings that have your authentic self's name on it. So finishing up on this question about kind of getting out of the way, not making it about yourself, and just purely being of service, the assignment reference nails it on the head. My inner good girl and perfectionist really come out. Yeah, the perfectionist, believe me, perfectionism is a hell of a drug. It's really intense, right? Because a lot of us were conditioned to just think about the consequences of failing that you experienced as a child. For me, at least, it wasn't oh, you made a mistake, we're going to learn from it. It was a lot of punishment. It was a lot of fear that I experienced, and I wanted to be perfect, right? There was this sense of I got to be good. And I'm still working that stuff out. And there can be this sense of we have to do it all by ourselves. And part of the path of divine mission is learning that you're not by yourself anymore at all, right? Your human may feel more alone or more separate from certain other humans, but on a deeper level, you're never alone now, right? You're co-creating with God. And also the other layer of the perfectionist and that, good girl, good boy programming is also having grace for yourself in the process of, maybe you will have some ego come out. Maybe you will see a reflection of how you're showing up, or you're ooh, I need to tune that up, or I want to improve on that. And that being okay. This is one thing that I love about human design, is the perspective that's shared about the 3 line and the 6 line. The 6 line is a 3 until after the Saturn return, and the 3 line is the person who does trial and error their entire life. They literally cannot escape public mistakes, public trial and error, where they have a vision, they try something out, they learn what doesn't work so that they can then share and embody what does work, right? So it is about whether or not you have that in your human design. There's a lot of grace in understanding that it's okay to be iterating in the process, and integrity is less about being perfect, and it's more about just adhering to your code of honor, and amending things when you realize that you've messed up, or that there's a better way that you can be doing it, just continuing to improve. Awesome. Yeah, I'm a 4/6, so I lived that 3 line till a couple of years ago, blessedly on the other side. And those of you joining, welcome. It's wonderful to see familiar faces and names here. And if you've got questions, feel free to submit them. I've got a couple written down that people submitted before. So someone asked, I think this is a good time to answer this. Someone asked what inspired me to come back to Instagram. Well, I did share about this more back in February and March when I came back to Instagram, but I'll give you a couple of the headlines now. This is also something that I have a strong intention to record a longer form video about. That's also kind of a teaching video about how to navigate the digital realms. In April of 2023, I left Instagram for an indeterminate period of time. And then I came back in February of this year. And the simplest, I've taken some notes on the pre-submitted questions, and all I wrote under this one was divine call, because it was divine call out and it was a divine call back in. And it was originally a divine call in when God told me to get on Instagram it was really like early 2018. I kind of knew at a certain point in 2017, but I remember being there on New Year's 2017 is 2018. It was like, it's go time. Like, it's time to be sharing the message and to be, it was like this turning over of my personal Instagram, which is still this same account, just, photos of like my friends' dogs and the New York City skyline with a 2014 Instagram filter, turning it into, a proper account that's standing for something and that's available to be witnessed by more than just the people that I knew in my day-to-day life. And so it's always been following the divine call. And when I heard that call, I wasn't like, yay, God wants me to be an Instagram influencer. I had a pretty, like, my human self had a pretty negative reaction, or I was just like, that feels scary. Like, I don't really want to do that, but I knew that I needed to, right? And I was in surrender to that. And a lot of my early work, and this still really informs how I work with people who are going to the next level of visibility, and especially people who are early in answering the call like I was back then. I had to do a lot of subconscious reprogramming. I had to do a lot of inner work. I would post something and then feel like I was going to die for like 3 days. Like, the level of the programming in me that did not want me to speak, that did not want me to step forward, that did not want me to stand for something, to be seen, was very strong. And it's wild to think back on it now. I remember even in 2019 was when I started to get even more explicitly spiritual in the work that I was sharing, because I was getting a lot of messages, before 2020, and just wanting to speak in a more, my levels of authenticity were just revealing themselves more and more. And I remember that feeling like a big threshold. And now it's like so obvious. This is very normal for me to be sharing and speaking with all of you in this way. And, I just, like, my partner Christina is in the other room, and I was just like, okay, going on Instagram Live. And I obviously, like, I prepare and I do my inner work and my outer work and things like that, but it's very normal for me now. And it did not used to be normal for me. And so my first many years on Instagram were so much about me finding my voice. And it was this laboratory where I could just practice. I'm looking at myself in the reflection right now. And I remember doing this when there were a lot fewer people watching, and there were a lot fewer people saying, your work has helped me or resonates with me. And it was just me taking each next step and learning as I went. And so I really appreciated social media in that way, for the space that it gave me to just break the mold of how I had been conditioned, and to break out of the little world that I was living in. I was living in New York City, but it was still a little world, right? I was still in this kind of like tiny subculture within it. So by 2022, 2023, I was really having this contemplation. I was feeling very conflicted about social media, because so much of my work is about the alignment of means and ends, right? It's about how we do the work is the work, which means that the means with which we're approaching our work is the result that we're creating. So I'm always keeping a very close eye on that. Like, is how I'm doing this, is this the energy that I want to be amplifying? And I was experiencing how much more frenetic the social media realm was becoming, and it still is. It's just like the freneticism is getting cranked up, and I was seeing my own addictive tendencies, right? I was feeling my own energy being drained by the technology and by the app, and I was in real deep contemplation for quite some time about what felt aligned and where I was being called. Because there's like what I think is aligned, and then there's where the energy, where God is guiding me to go. And so for a long time, I just felt like, okay, I'm conflicted about this, but I know I'm supposed to keep showing up. And then early 2023, I just heard intuitively within myself, it's time to pull the plug, right? It's time to to exit stage left for some time, and I did that in as intentional a way as I could. And I ran a program called Revival, which is, there's like a backdoor link to get it on my website right now, but we're going to be re-releasing it in divine timing soon, which is all about basically doing a digital detox with God, like doing a hard reset on what is draining your energy and how what you're consuming is affecting what you're creating. Because that's also why I pay really close attention to this, because it's amazing to be able to have these conversations. And I've met people on social media that have changed my life. God speaks in any way that God can, right? And we're all divine messengers for each other in different ways. I really believe we have soul contracts with different groups of people, and they're like, okay, I'm agreeing in this life, you're going to be the person who gets this message to me. And so I also take it very seriously to show up and to share in the way that I do. And I was really looking at, okay, what's the cost of short form content creation versus long form creation, and just seeing how much energy was being put into the apps. And also I tend to have, for a season, I also had a lot of my one-on-one clients had really big social media followings and really big influence in that way. And so I was able to see kind of behind the curtain of how it was affecting people who were really deep with the technology. And in March, April 2023, I stepped off, and I felt really good about that. I was like, okay, I'm going to communicate with people on my email list, and I'm going to do my good work. I'm going to keep serving, keep running my programs, keep serving my one-on-one clients. And I did that. And it was a very necessary process for me of going into the cocoon and detoxing more fully, like full unplug from this realm, so that I could then, part of me really thought I was going to be gone forever. And then I started to feel, oh, okay, I'm being called back. And I sat with it. And one day I turned to Christina and I was like, I think I'm supposed to go back on Instagram. And she just said, yeah, I've been feeling that too. She knew, we both knew. And it was the same thing. The divine call said go. The divine call said leave. The divine call said come on back. And I've been able to come back with so much more clarity on how I want to interact personally with this technology. My boundaries are so much more clear, and in really subtle ways that I'm going to continue to teach about in divine timing. And it's also just, it was timed as well with, I talk a lot about seasons of mission, where you have these big moments where you're more publicly seen and where your work is kind of culminating and cresting in certain ways. And then sometimes you go into a winter period where you kind of compost and you digest and you contemplate and you await greater clarity and further divine instruction. And in many ways, my work is basically the same that it's been for many years, and in other ways that are more apparent to me internally, and also to people who are interacting with my work, right? You may notice certain things have shifted or have solidified. There's an inner and outer architecture that feels like it's really landed in a longer term way, that me taking some space from the immediacy of the back and forth with the tech really created the space for. And now it's like I'm charged up and I am very clear on the expansion of the message and my just very, very deep commitment to getting the tools that I've been given to as many people as possible, or as many people are meant to receive them. And knowing the level of collective chaos, upheaval, shifting, like how much those of you who are leaders right now, we all need to be stepping forward. Side note, I have a small group coaching program that I'm running for the second time for people who are really feeling that next level of the call and want to be supported in stepping forward. It's called Mission Spring. You can DM me the word spring if you feel called to it. I'll share a little bit more towards the end of this live, but just wanted to give that note. We're about to go through some wild stuff, and I don't say that to fearmonger. It's just neutrally, that's what we're here for, quite the show. And we're going to see systems shift, and we're going to be called to greater responsibility in creation. And it's it's time, right? It's time for the next level of embracing our power as divine co-creators. And that's to sum up this question of why I'm back. It's simply that I'm following divine instruction and it was clear to return. And it's also an understanding that I've been charged up and given very clear instructions for the next couple of years on my path, my mission, and I'm here to fulfill on that commitment. Sam says, I battle with staying on IG, but it's special people like you that keep me here. Yeah, that's a comment that I've really wrestled with in different ways, and it was part of why I took a step back, because I didn't want people entering this very chaotic digital realm just to get my content. And so I'm sitting with that, and I'm going to keep putting out tools that help people have a more sovereign relationship with this tech, just sharing the things that I have seen work. And honestly, the thing that works the most is being so all in on your life, like in love with your life, devoted to your mission, obsessed with your creations, to the point that you do not want to get distracted. Or if you get distracted, you're like, what am I doing? It's like getting distracted, like eating a McDonald's instead of a gourmet meal. You're like, why am I eating this? Wait, let me go back and do the thing that I'm here to do. Like, devotion to life crowds out all of the life draining BS. So I'm going to keep teaching on that in different ways. And anything that I'm posting, especially Instagram lives, we're moving those over to YouTube, so that there's a way to pretty much everything that I'm sharing here. If you're on my YouTube or you're on my email list, you're going to get it one way or another, because I never want people to feel like they have to be on this tech in order to get the message that I'm sharing. So it's a work in progress, and that's part of my perfectionistic surrender too, is embracing the moment that I'm in and showing up for the ongoing evolution. Stephanie says a changing of the guard is happening. Yeah, changing of the guard is happening. And I'm going to take this moment actually to speak a little bit about Mission Spring, and then I'm going to answer one or two more questions. And you can also, those of you who are live, are welcome to drop any other questions that are coming up. But it is this changing of the guard that inspired me to create this Mission Spring group. And I know it's not, the first time I launched it, it was in spring in the Northern Hemisphere. Now it's spring in the Southern Hemisphere, but it's always springtime in someone's mission somewhere. And the spirit of it, I just heard this phrase at the beginning of this year: new waves of awakening, new leaders being called forward. And there was this sense of just remembering how I felt 2017, 2018, knowing this sense of I'm being called forward and I'm going to do it. And it's also scary, and I would love support, and thinking about the role that my mentors played, especially back then, in just continuously mirroring to me like, yo, I see you, keep going. Because some of it is about the external work, right? It's about, okay, what are you launching? What are you sharing? How? But a lot of it's the inner work. A lot of it is just attuning yourself, becoming comfortable, being the person who you actually are, stepping into this next level of leadership in a way that's also true to you, and not catching some, inorganic slipstream of how you think you need to show up, who you think you need to be, but actually being yourself, because that's exactly what the world needs. And so from April through July, I ran the first cohort of Mission Spring, and it was such a divine group of people that were brought together. Everybody was just looking at each other like, how did we all end up in this space? Because the level of resonance and kind of weaving between the group, everybody had someone who kind of complimented them. Everyone had people who really mirrored and reflected them. And there was just this soul level kinship feeling. And as the group was completing, I just heard it's time to run it again. There's another group of people who are ready for this. And so it's 90 days. We meet every other week. We have office hours, so you can have connection with me in between calls, and it's 6 people, and it's highly curated, right? So it's either by invite, if I already really know you well and I think you might be a good fit, or it's by application. And even people I'm personally inviting, most of them I'm having fill out an application as well, so that it's truly the right group of people, and you can look around and feel like you're, on every single call, you're receiving one-on-one coaching directly from me, but then you're also receiving that encouragement and that support from the rest of the group, and you're receiving from seeing how they're being coached through what they're navigating as well. And it's for the person who knows I'm stepping forward one way or another, and I would love some witnessing. I would love to be, held in loving witnessing by a group of people, by a mentor who really understands what it's like to feel this way and to be stepping forward in this way. Then that's who it's for. And if you are hearing this and you're feeling like, yo, that's me, and it may be that you're stepping forward and creating something for the first time, or that you've kind of been sharing, kind of been putting yourself out there, but or even that you have a well-established something, but there's this whole next level, this next iteration, and you feel yourself at that threshold of, I literally cannot play small anymore. I cannot delay this next expression. Then that's who it's for. If you feel a resonance as I'm saying this and you want to know more about it, you can just send me a DM with the word spring, and I will send you the information, and you can feel into whether it's the right fit for you. We're going to start in September, probably mid to late September. The exact timing will be determined as the whole group comes together, and we're in that perfect, that beautiful time where a lot of people are feeling into it. We can see the group starting to come together, but we're not fully landed yet. So we'll know our exact start time as God brings everybody together. So that's Mission Spring. Wanted to give you all the headline about that. And I'm going to answer another question or two. And those of you who are live, feel free to comment as well. Okay. So someone asked, I was co-creating a timeline, but was afraid to jump all in. Now I regret it. What do I do? So my interpretation of this question was basically that it's like they were co-creating a timeline, meaning that they were co-creating something with someone, maybe a partner, right? Maybe a business partner. And there was this kind of co-created energy of, we're doing this. They were afraid to jump all in. Now they regret it. What did they do? So I would love a little bit more context on this, but I trust the divine design of the overview that we're going to do here. And as I read this question, it's the first thing that I hear is two things. One, what's for you won't miss you. What's for you won't miss you. We've heard that in many, many different ways. My teacher says that all the time. What's for you won't miss you, and what is not for you, you cannot hold on to. It will be taken from you. And so that can create a lot of peace. I've seen people myself personally, I've tried to push certain things away in my life. Even me talking about going on Instagram and becoming more of a public figure and all of that. If something's for you, it's going to keep coming back around. And if something's not for you, you can cling to it and it will just be taken out of your hands by life eventually, especially if you're taking a surrendered posture and you're saying, God, work through me, change my life for the highest good, all of that. So just sitting in this knowing of if this is meant to come back around, then it will. And that can give a lot of peace. The second thing that's sort of another expression of this is A Course in Miracles says that any miracle that has been deferred is held in trust for us until we're ready to receive it. Right? So if there was a miracle here for you, what did this co-creation represent to you? Love, peace, abundance, whatever it is, whatever you thought you were going to get from this, it is held in trust for you, and you will receive it in perfect divine timing as you allow yourself to, right? As you're ready to let it in. So knowing that, there may be a kind of releasing of attachment to a certain form where you're like, oh, I thought this person was going to be my best friend, or I thought I was going to live in this house, or whatever it is, right? We have to let go of a lot of that, just constantly letting go of the 3D attachment in this reality, and knowing that whatever you thought you were going to receive from that, if you're meant to have it, it's going to come back in another way. There's a phrase that Florence Scovel Shinn uses where she talks about the divine equivalent, bring me the divine equivalent of this or something better. So knowing that this is an opportunity to learn, right? Why were you afraid? Why didn't you go all in? Was it actually, it may just be that you literally intuitively were like, this is not for me, and I'm triggered as heck about it, and there's a lot of pressure and a lot of energy, but like maybe it's just not for me. And so I said no, and now I feel regretful, and I wonder if I'm gonna get a chance to have it in another way. Or maybe that you were scared and there was programming and conditioning that came up and it was actually would have been really great for you, and you just sat on the sidelines of life because of programming and conditioning. You don't need to shame or blame yourself for that. Use it as a learning opportunity. What are you seeing in the mirror there? What parts of you are still operating from an old story, right? What parts of you are not available to receive the goodness of life? Go love on those parts. Go take care of those parts. Go do trauma clearing, subconscious reprogramming on those stories so that you can receive what's for you. And that's what I mean about miracles are held in trust. As you become more available to it, it's going to inevitably start to flow into your life, whatever it is that this situation represented. And you may need to forgive yourself or other people, right? And kind of grieve this timeline, grieve the thing that didn't happen. Right? Write a forgiveness letter. Dear self, I forgive you for making the choices that you made, or dear other people involved. Right? And do something to help clear the energy. Burn that letter, release it in some way, allow the energy to be alchemized. Because the worst case scenario here would be that you that you just kind of beat yourself up so much about the situation, or you doubt yourself, or you're looking in the past so that you're not here present and you're not looking to the future. Because whatever it is you think you lost in the situation, there's more of it available for you, and probably in an even more aligned way. So continue to, again, name what that situation represented to you and say, I'm going to experience this. God, co-create this with me. Show me my next step to experiencing more of this, whether it's love, abundance, health, peace, joy, connection, whatever it is. It's yours by divine right, and the right vehicle for it will present itself in your life. And then you'll be able to tell a great story, right? A lot of the challenges that we go through, they're here to teach us, right? So you're going to teach people about what happens when you start creating something and then you doesn't feel right and you bail, and then you're back to square one, and then you have to create something new, but then it ends up being better. Take notes on your experience. You're literally probably going to teach people about this if you allow yourself to fully go through this experience, and you don't just allow the kind of fear, guilt, shame spiral to take you down and keep you in regret, because there's a lot of life that's still waiting for you. So that's what I got for you on that question. I'm going to take a hydration moment here. We're going to wrap this up in the next couple of minutes. Any of you who are live who have a question, you are welcome to ask it now, speak now, or hold your peace until the next live. Thank you to everybody who has joined today. I love being able to have these conversations, and I reserve the deeper dive Q&A where I'm really getting into the nitty-gritty of people's situations and coaching them directly and things like that. Right? That's reserved for things like Mission Space, which is my membership, where we have a Q&A call every month where people get to ask me questions and be on video live and get the direct transmission, and we get to kind of coach and talk through their situation. I love being able to do the deeper dive, but I also love being able to show up and connect with you all in this way. So we're going to wrap it up. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say here. Someone asked, I was debating whether I was going to answer this question because it's a really deep one. I might do like a whole live on this at some point. But someone asked, how do we maintain faith and trust in God when there is suffering? That's a big question. That's kind of like the whole name of the game here on earth. And what I would say is, God is in everything. And it's a very deep conversation about the level of suffering that's happening on this planet and why it is. But the practical recommendation that I would give you is what one of my teachers says, is that in every situation you say, God, where are you? Right? If it seems bad, God, where are you in this? If it seems good, God, where are you in this? And everything is an opportunity to deepen your relationship with God, to deepen your connection to the miraculous and to that love from which you emanate that is you. And that's the whole name of the game in this realm, is that it's trying to distract you. It's trying to pull you further into the illusion of separation, trying to shock you so much into saying there couldn't be a God. This is too terrible. But there is a God, and you come from God, and that's where you're going back once you make it through everything that you're learning here. And there's a level of the game that you get to where you're not going to let this, no matter what happens in this realm, no matter how shocking it is, no matter how much it hurts, you understand that the ultimate test is to not turn away from God, is to keep turning towards God and to say, God, show me where you are in this. And one of my teachers says that the one prayer that will for sure always be answered is, God, show me how supported I am. Show me where you are. Reveal yourself to me, right? Ask and you will be shown. And so, leaning in, bringing your grief to God, bringing your suffering to God. And, for some, this is not going to land because it's not your curriculum in this lifetime to be engaging with questions in this way. But for others of you, there's going to be a deepening understanding that this is the whole name of the game. And in every situation, the orientation is, no matter how much this makes me question my faith, no matter how much this makes me want to close my heart to go further into separation, I'm going to keep orienting back. I'm going to keep finding new ways to not react and to feel myself connected to God and connected to that which transcends everything that is happening in this realm. So we can have a deeper conversation about that at some point. We're definitely going to have a deeper conversation about that as we get into Holy Liberation coming back out again, which is my program on healing your relationship with God and answering the call of your divine mission. We did it 4 years ago. It was absolutely epic, and I'm finally integrated enough from that first run of it to do it again. So these deeper questions about our relationship with God and what's really going on here, and where do we find freedom and peace within it all, we're gonna be diving deeper. Awesome. Yeah, we got some Holy Liberation Squad in the house. Love you all. And we're going to leave it here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you in another now moment. Sending you all lots of love.